Are we living in bubbles? Let's find out. So I want to make this video to explain awakening from this energetic perspective. And first of all, everything is energy, and energy itself is empty, you could say. So that's the empty form we see. We see the formless expressing itself in every form. If you look at an atom or a particle, inside it's 99% empty. And there's a part that's there, and then when you look at that part, it's 99% empty as well. So that's the interesting also with this quantum theories and everything that's coming up right now, because it's similar to Buddhism. Similar as in the teachings of the Buddha itself, that it's empty fullness. We experience fullness, but that fullness is actually empty. And we can experience that emptiness ourselves experientially if we dissolve our bubbles. Let me explain it a little bit by showing you this drawing of bubbles. So you have a person, right? Which is actually also emptiness, but it's a perspective. And from that perspective, there's often some fullness that is mentally or energetically experienced. And usually we're in a sort of bubble, which we don't know that we're in a bubble, first of all. So when we start meditating, or when we start becoming aware, or start inquiring, or we start paying more attention to what is happening with us, then what we can see is that there are all these beliefs. Thoughts about my partner does this, I do that, I'm not so good at this, I am good at that, I'm proud of this, I'm not proud of that. There's all these thoughts we've believed in, which have created energetically a form of solidity, which is again actually not there, but when we believe all these things, we've created this solidity. So when we start meditating, or when we start inquiring, or start on the spiritual process, or start relaxing, like having like this open awareness, mindfulness, or we start doing more concentration-based practices like Vipassana, where we focus on what is the solidity that I'm feeling, and can I deconstruct that? Can I dissolve that? Then what we see is, first of all, we start dissolving the bubble that we are in. At first, we start to see that we are dissolving the content of our bubble. And we think our bubble is just what is there, you could say. And that's not true, but we don't know it yet. So we start dissolving the content of our bubble. And with that, we start to experience more relaxation. We start to experience more space, literally. Also, energetically, we can feel more space around us. We can feel more relaxed. We can feel like we're not so bothered by thoughts, because we've dissolved part of the content of our bubble. And what happens over time is that at some point, you start looking into a belief which is actually the bubble itself. And we don't know that beforehand, but it can sometimes, belief can feel big, right? Or fundamental. And sometimes these beliefs have an energetic, emotional, and mental component. And sometimes, again, you work on things more mentally or emotionally or energetically by feeling them, or feeling into them, or feeling them in the body, or stuff like that. And at some point we dissolve a belief which was the bubble itself. But then, oftentimes, there's bubbles within bubbles. So we dissolve a part of our solidity. For example, the feeling of being a person is usually one of the first things to go. That we feel not merged with everything, that we feel separate. And when that goes, we can have, for example, the feeling of that there's this fullness soup. I describe it like that to to my clients, and some of them have experienced that. You've now created there's this connection where you feel everything is still full in experientially, but it's like one soup. But that's still a filter bubble. So when we keep dissolving, and when we keep looking at the beliefs that are there, the solidities that we find, then at some point we dissolve a belief and we go through another layer. We dissolve another bubble, basically, a wider bubble that we've had. And when we do that, we can, for example, encounter like everything's empty. Right? Everything's void. Everything is nothing. And then when we keep looking into that, we can even dissolve nothingness. And then no bubble remains. Because there's no sense of bubble then. And then the self was actually these different identifications, you could say, on the energetic level, with first of all the person, second of all with life itself as a big thing, and then with emptiness or the substance of the universe. And then when that even dissolved, there's no identification, meaning no identity, meaning no self, and you're just experiencing life without any bubble. And that doesn't mean that content can't arise or that there's no content to dissolve. There's often quite a journey to dissolve more content, and that's an ever-going journey. But there's definitely, after this losing of the bubble or no self experience, there's still some conditioning that can come up and can dissolve, but there's no bubbles like that. But still, within bubbles, we can have different energetic flavors. We can feel good, we can feel not so good, we can believe a thought, we can not believe a thought, we can do everything which we could do in a bubble outside a bubble. But this whole game, you could say, which is a spiritual game of experiencing life as it is, and not deluding ourselves by believing our thoughts and our bubbles. That's it's still like a very, very interesting game. Because it's hard to know when you'll dissolve a bubble or when you'll dissolve just a belief, which creates some space and some freedom. We can, again, approach this dissolving of beliefs in different ways. And if you have questions in how you can most effectively do that for you, for your system, or for a certain belief, then feel free to schedule a free coaching call with me. I have the link in the description, straight to my agenda. So, much love to you, and let's speak soon. And just keep dissolving those beliefs and bubbles or any type of solidity that comes up, and you'll end up in this free, no bubble space, which is lovely. Much love to you.